How to land a job in clinical research. This is a primer for searching, applying, and receiving an offer for jobs in the clinical research industry in the Raleigh-Durham-Chapel Hill area of North Carolina. My name is Steve Pope. I live and work in the area, and I'm also teaching a course at Wake Technical Community College in Raleigh, which is one of our local community colleges here in the Raleigh area. And I've created this video because I get asked by a lot of people, some of whom are students and some aren't, how do I go about landing a job in clinical research if I'm either new to the area or I'm new to the industry? What do I need to do? So I've created this to sort of give you a tutorial on things that you can do beginning today to start reaching out and start to land that first job in clinical research. Now, these concepts that I'm going to go over in this video aren't necessarily unique to the Raleigh-Durham-Chapel Hill area. They could be applied anywhere, but I'm going to tailor the discussion to kind of the needs of what we have here locally. And I know some of you may be looking at this from other parts of the country or even other parts of the world for that matter. But you can learn a lot about our local economy, our local job market by viewing this. And I think you'll find the concepts that can be deployed just about anywhere. So I think you'll get a lot out of it. So first, let's talk about the region. We're talking about the Research Triangle Park area of North Carolina, which is an area that includes Raleigh, the state capital, Chapel Hill, and Durham. We here locally tend to refer to this as the Triangle. People in other parts of the country have heard of Research Triangle, but it's basically the same region. So we have the distinction of being the center of the international clinical trials community. We have almost all of the contract research organizations either headquartered here or have significant operations here. We have quite a few pharma companies, medical device companies, IRBs are located here. So we have a very vibrant local, what I like to call the local ecosystem here in North Carolina that encompasses a lot of different companies and a lot of different organizations. We also have the distinction of being home to 3 large research universities, most of whom you're familiar with. We have the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. We also have North Carolina State University located in Raleigh. And then finally we have Duke University located in Durham. Now for those of you in other parts of the country, we're in a very unique geographical area because we have so much to offer. We're only about a 3 or 4 hour drive from the Blue Ridge Mountains to our west, and we're only about a 2-hour drive from the Atlantic Ocean to our east. So we are positioned to enjoy those specific vacation spots or leisure spots. So it's a great place to live and work. So what I'm covering in this video is essentially a blueprint that you can use to land your first job. So with any tutorial, it's good to have a few learning objectives. So I've got a few that we're going to go over in this short video. First of all, we're going to identify contract research organizations, or CROs, that have a local presence. We're also going to cite job titles and job tasks so that you can become familiar with the type of jobs and the type of job titles that you should be looking for if you're looking to land your first job. We're also going to talk about networking, which I like to describe as your not-so-secret weapon. Everyone needs to learn how to network. It is essential to growing your career. It is essential to expanding your knowledge base. And you need to learn to do it in a professional manner, and it's something that you need to continue doing. You don't just do it when you're looking for a job. You need to continually network with other people in your community. We're also going to talk and discuss about training and why you need this. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, wait a minute, Steve, I know lots of people that got their jobs in clinical research and they didn't have any training. Well, that could have been true maybe 10 or 12 years ago. But the landscape has changed, and trials are much more complex these days. CRO organizations are much more complex, and it's very important that you have some type of training in order to land your first job and expand your career beyond that first job. And then finally, we're going to develop a method for keeping score, and we're going to understand why this is so important. So let's get started. For the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to be talking mostly about the local contract research organizations that are either headquartered here in the Raleigh-Durham-Chapel Hill area, or those that have significant operations. And what you see in front of you now is a list of some of those organizations, most of them. There are probably some that I don't have listed here. But to reiterate my point earlier, we're home to many of the large, almost all of the large CROs. We have Quintiles, the largest CRO in the world, is headquartered right here in Durham. We have PRA Health Sciences, headquartered here in Raleigh. INC Research is headquartered here in Raleigh. PPD is actually headquartered in Wilmington, which is down on the coast, about a 2-hour drive from Raleigh, but also has a very significant local operation here. All of the other companies that you see listed are either headquartered here or have significant operations, and all of whom should be on your target list if you're looking to get into your first job in the industry. I also want to mention that we have a lot of staffing companies that cater to the research industry. To name a few, we have Aerotech, Docs, we have Randstad, Kelly Services. There are probably lots of others that I'm not going to mention here, but those are pretty easy to find out there. And we're going to talk about how you should go about prospecting and finding who to talk to in those particular areas. The great thing about our local area is that we have so many different companies that really increases your chances to remain employed for a long period of time. So you see a lot of movement among the companies here locally, and that's just a given. But having a very vibrant local job market is essential to your success. So hopefully by now I've piqued your interest to the point where you want to continue watching this video. So let's get into some of the specifics. We've talked about some of the companies. I've even given you a list of those that you can begin putting on your target list. So now let's talk about some specific job titles and job tasks that you should probably be looking for. First, let's talk about some of the specific titles. And these are fairly interchangeable. Most of the CROs in the area will have job titles that are similar to these. You'll see them as either might be a clinical trial assistant, a project assistant, a research assistant, maybe a regulatory assistant. Document management is an area that you might want to think about for your first job. Also, subject recruitment can be another area that you don't want to overlook because there are a lot of needs in that area as well. So let's talk about some of the job tasks. So you're probably thinking, if you don't know very much about our industry, you're thinking, well, gee, what kind of job tasks are out there? A lot of people have this notion that clinical research involves, working in a lab or something like that, and that's not really what it is. So there are a number of what I would like to describe as a fairly administrative tasks that are very vital to the success of a clinical trial. They involve things such as sending out study supplies to clinical sites. You may assist in other administrative tasks. You may put together an email list of site contacts or sponsor contacts, something like that. You may prepare items for an investigator meeting. You could coordinate teleconferences. You may be involved in taking meeting minutes, either in person or over the phone. You'll probably be involved in filing documents electronically using a document management system. And there are going to be other ad hoc tasks that may be assigned from time to time that you may be involved in, such as creating newsletters, things like that. So you're going to be involved using the Microsoft Office suite of products. So someone that's got good skills in that area, those are going to be very, very beneficial in your first job, because you're going to learn how to do a lot of those things. And hopefully you already know how to do some of those things. And it's going to just make you more valuable and make you, more, more vital employee there at the company. So you've got some foundational tasks that probably don't require a significant amount of knowledge of clinical trials, but certainly a basic knowledge would be very beneficial, and you can begin doing those types of tasks. And the good thing about it is that these tasks are not going to be particularly difficult, but your time management skills and your multitasking skills are going to come into play in many of these first jobs that you're going to get. So you're going to be building a job portfolio from there that you're going to use to expand your career and move up in the organization as you go along. The next concept that we want to talk about is going to be networking, what I like to call your not so secret weapon. Everyone needs to be able to do this, and everyone needs to be doing this on a regular basis. So I have before you a couple of organizations that you probably want to become familiar with in your networking activity. The first is the Association of Clinical Research Professionals, which is the largest professional development organization for clinical research in the world. The great thing is they have a local chapter that meets on a regular basis. So I've offered the link there for you. I would highly recommend that you go on that link, find out when the next meeting is, and plan to attend. You do not have to be a member to come to a monthly meeting. In fact, I would highly recommend that you go ahead and attend a few meetings and kind of get to know some of the folks before you decide whether or not to join. Another organization is the Society of Clinical Research Associates. It also has a local chapter that meets here in the area, and I've offered the link there that you can go online and find out when the next meeting is. A couple of other organizations, I recommend the Glen Raleigh Meetup Group. Most of you are familiar with meetup groups. They're for people that have a specific interest in one thing or another. But this is a great group for you to come network with, get to meet some of the folks in the local area. Go on to the meetup site and sign up, and then find out when the next meeting is and plan to attend. Now, these three organizations, as I mentioned, they have monthly meetings. So I do have a few recommendations for you as you go to these. Show up, introduce yourself. You may want to have some business cards. You can get business cards for free in various organizations. That way you can hand those out. Get to know some of the people. Ask for advice. It's a great place to make contacts, and you'll find that almost everyone that you meet at these organizations are very eager to help you, very eager to provide advice for you as you're searching for your first job. So it's a great way to meet local people and benefit from their advice. Another thing you can do is volunteer. Every single one of these organizations needs volunteers. They have events that they do. They have other items that they need for people to work on, and they can't get enough volunteer help. So make yourself available and volunteer and help out. They will be very glad for you to do that. The final item I have down there is LinkedIn. This is a major necessity today. You should learn to manage your online presence. So if you're not already on LinkedIn, go to the LinkedIn site and get online. What I would recommend is that don't just take your current resume and dump it out there. Kind of summarize your experience and put a few bullet items on each one. Don't have a real lengthy profile on there, because most people they're not going to read all of that stuff anyway. I do highly recommend that you get some professional photography. You can do that for as little as $50. It will make a world of difference in how your profile is perceived by others that look at it, and it will give you a much more professional quality that will set you apart from the person that shot their photograph using their laptop webcam or a cell phone or something like that. So you definitely want to invest a little bit of money into some professional photography. It'll make a world of difference. So let's talk about training and why you need this. Many people tell me, Steve, wait a minute, I know lots of people that got involved in research and they didn't have any specific training. And as I said earlier, that may have been true 10, 12 years ago. It is no longer true today. Trials are far more complex and they're ever changing, and you need training in order to provide yourself with some basic fundamental skills. And also, you need that in order to set yourself apart from all of the other candidates. But one of the benefits of training that you'll get is that you'll get a chance to learn about the varied functional areas that are associated with a clinical trial. These are functional areas that are in a pharma company or in a CRO. They include areas like clinical operations. They also include data management, regulatory, drug safety and pharmacovigilance, quality assurance, subject recruitment, study startup, contracts. There are probably some others that I'm leaving out, but the benefit of training is that you'll get some exposure and some knowledge in those areas. And the more knowledge you have about a wide array of functional areas, the more likely you are to be deployed in multiple areas within a company. And you're going to bring a lot more value to the table when you go to look for your first job and when you go to seek the next job after that and after that. The more you understand about these different areas, the more valuable you become to your employer. So let's take a look at some of the local training opportunities. So I've got a few broken down here that are specific to clinical research. For example, there are a couple of local universities. UNC Wilmington, which is about a 2-hour drive from Raleigh, has a BS degree and a master's program in clinical research. Campbell University, located in Buies Creek, which is about an hour drive from Raleigh, also has a bachelor and a master's degree program, specifically in clinical research. A couple of other local colleges. Durham Technical Community College, located in Durham, actually offers an associate's degree in clinical research, as well as several certificate programs in a number of different areas specific to clinical research. The value that you have at the community college is that those programs typically are going to be a lot less expensive than attending a 4-year school. So there's a big advantage there. Also, Wake Technical Community College, where I work, offers a certificate program in clinical research. And so these are all schools that you can take advantage of in the local area for training that is specific to clinical research. So I would highly recommend that you take a look at those, maybe figure out which program you think is best. Now, there are plenty of other programs out there. These are the ones that are locally oriented. There are other universities that offer master's programs, for example, some of which are online, that are in other parts of the country that you can also take advantage of that as well. In addition, there are industry training classes that you can take, seminars. You can do some of these on the web. These are too numerous for me to mention here, but if you do some searching, you'll find plenty of them out there. Some of them are fairly reasonably priced. I think from my perspective, I think that your potential employer is going to put a lot more value on a university certificate or degree than they will in some of these industry training programs. Now, I know some of you are yelling at me right now saying, wait a minute, Steve, that's not true. But from my perspective, you're going to be much better served if you seek out one of these university programs versus some of the ad hoc industry training programs that exist. So we've talked about the local job market. We've talked about some job skills and some job titles, networking, training. Now we want to get to the point where you're ready to kind of put all this together. So what I like to think of this is keeping score, why this is so important. So this is not so specific to clinical research, but in just job prospecting, on its own. I recommend keeping it simple. You want to document and track your search activities. I highly recommend that you use Microsoft Excel to track your job applications. You want to track the date that you applied, the company, the job title, the job number, if they have one. If there's a contact name, put the contact name in there, put some comments in there. This is very, very important because in the early stages, it's important that you feel good about what you're doing. And so you want to be able to keep score so that you can go back over the last week and say, well, gee, okay, I applied for this many jobs and I feel pretty good that I'm going to get some contacts. So it's an effort to kind of keep track of your activities. I recommend that you resist the temptation to go online and apply for every job that you can find. Try to pick and choose the ones that you honestly feel like you have the best chance for. Read the job description carefully and make sure that you think it's going to be a good fit. If you can find a contact name, that's great. That's fantastic. I recommend going on LinkedIn. And there are a lot of jobs on there. If you see a job posting someplace, you may try and contact someone at the company. The worst thing they can do is say no to you. So don't let that discourage you. Let's talk a little bit about CVs, resumes, cover letters. We like to think of the curriculum vitae in our industry, but it's essentially very similar to a resume. Most of you are probably going to be familiar with resumes. I recommend keeping them to 2 pages, no more than 2 pages. 1 page is even more desirable. Cover letters don't need to be very detailed. You need to be able to identify what job you're applying for and where you saw it. That's essentially what someone that first gets that resume wants to know, because they want to know what advertising is working for them. So they want to know that in your cover letter. I would recommend trying to get in contact with recruiters. LinkedIn's a great resource for this. Every recruiter out there has their profile on LinkedIn. They're very easy to find. Not going to take you very much time to do that. Connect with them. Send them a note. A lot of them are going to have their email address on there. They want people to contact them. This is what they get paid to do. So they don't mind hearing from you. Another thing that's good with different recruiters, and I'm not necessarily talking about independent recruiters, but also those that work for the corporation, is that they're a good source of free advice. They can tell you, hey, am I on the right track here? What kind of job should I really be applying for? Is there something I can do with my resume that might enhance it a little bit? But those are some things that you can do and begin doing right now. So you're still going to have to go online and apply for the job there. I would encourage you to keep track of all your job applications using Excel. That way you can run some simple analytics on that after you get a few weeks or a month or so into it. And you'll begin to understand, gee, how many applications does it take for me to get an interview? If it's taking you more than maybe 10 or 15, then there's a good chance you're probably not applying for the right jobs. You should probably have about a 10 or 12 to 1 ratio between the applications that you're submitting online and whether or not you're getting a contact. So you should keep track of that. as you get more into it, and you'll want to maintain that system for when you apply for your next job and your next job after that, because what you'll discover is that it won't take you very many applications before you get a contact after you've gained some experience. Following up is very important. I highly recommend, after you've had an interview, send a written thank you note. It makes a huge difference when somebody gets a note in their office that's addressed to them and has a short little note, thank you, from you. That makes a big difference. You can send email, that's fine. I'm not opposed to that. But the handwritten note really has a major, major impact. So don't forget that. So I hope that this has helped you. I hope you have benefited from this tutorial. I wish you a lot of luck. I know that you'll be successful. I know that these concepts will work for you. And I know that if you deploy them and you keep track of your activity, that you will succeed in landing your first job in clinical research, and you will have a fantastic career after that by continuing to do the things that I have discussed in this tutorial.